All right, let's talk about something that's pretty much every homeowner's worst nightmare, a major water disaster. We're going to break down what happens, why you have to move fast, and how you can actually get through the chaos. Okay, let's get right into it. Okay, picture this. It's the middle of the night. You're sound asleep and then you hear it, the sound of rushing water. A pipe's burst. Your home is flooding. That initial panic starts to set in, right? What do? Who are you supposed to call? Is your house going to be okay? Look, this isn't just some made-up scenario. It happens to thousands of people every single year. So, to get you from that moment of panic to having a real plan, here's our roadmap for today. First, we're going to understand the enemy, water itself. Then, we'll talk about why the clock is ticking in those critical first hours. After that, we'll walk through the pro-level 3-phase playbook. And finally, we'll get to what everybody really wants to know, the cost and the insurance side of things.
So let's kick things off with part 1, water, the silent invader. Before you could fight it, you've got to understand how it gets into your home in the first place.
A lot of the time, the culprits are the things we use every day and never think twice about. If you live somewhere cold, pipes freezing and bursting is a huge one. Then you've got your appliances. That washing machine hose fails or your water heater gives out. We're talking 40, 50, even 80 gallons of water just gone. And of course, there are the big ones. A sewer backing up into your basement or a massive storm causing a flood.
And here's the thing you really need to get. That puddle you see on the floor, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Water is sneaky. It gets everywhere. It soaks into the subfloor, it wicks up the inside of your walls, and it gets into all your insulation. It's not just making a mess, it's attacking the very bones of your house, silently and incredibly fast.
And that speed brings us right to part 2, the critical first hours. Because with water damage, you are literally in a race. The second you see that water, a stopwatch starts. Okay, this number right here, 24 to 48 hours, if you remember one thing, remember this. This isn't just some random number. This is your window. This is your chance to get ahead of the problem. So, what is it about this specific time frame that makes it so unbelievably important?
Well, it all comes down to one little 4-letter word: mold. See, mold spores are literally floating around in the air all the time, totally harmless. But the moment they find a nice, damp surface to land on, like that wet drywall inside your walls, they start to grow. That 24 to 48-hour window is your shot to get everything dry before a whole separate, much more serious problem can take hold.
And I mean, just look at how fast this all goes down. In the very first minute, the water is already spreading and soaking in. By hour 1, your drywall is starting to swell up and get mushy. Hit that 24-hour mark, and boom, you're officially in the danger zone for mold. And if you go past 48 hours, now you're looking at things like your actual subfloors warping. The damage doesn't just add up, it multiplies.
So, with that crazy timeline in mind, you can see why the pros don't just wing it. They have a methodical, science-based playbook for how to attack this and save a home.
And this isn't just some made-up process. It comes from an organization called the IICRC, which sets the standards for the entire industry. And it really boils down to these 3 phases. 1, get the bulk of the water out fast. 2, dry out the structure itself. And 3, rebuild everything that was damaged.
Phase 1 is the emergency response. We're not talking about a little shop vac here. This is powerful, truck-mounted equipment that can pull out huge amounts of water very quickly. The crews will also start tearing out anything that's just too far gone to save, like soggy drywall or insulation, because you have to get it out of the way to dry what's behind it.
Then comes phase 2, and this is where it gets really scientific. Just getting rid of the standing water isn't enough. You've got moisture trapped deep inside the wood and the concrete. So they bring in these massive commercial-grade dehumidifiers and air movers to create a very specific drying environment. And they don't guess. They use moisture meters every single day for maybe 3 to 5 days until they can prove the structure is dry.
Now you might be thinking, water is water, right? Nope, not even close. The entire cleanup strategy depends on what kind of water you're dealing with. Category 1 is clean water, like from a broken water pipe. But all the way at the other end, you have Category 3, or black water. This is stuff from a sewer backup or a river flood, and it's a serious biohazard. Anything porous it touches, carpet, drywall, you name it, is considered contaminated and has to go. Period.
And only then, once everything is verifiably bone dry and safe, can phase 3 even start. This is the part you've been waiting for, the rebuild. Putting up new drywall, new insulation, new floors. The whole goal here is to get your home back to the way it was before the disaster ever happened.
Okay, so we've covered the disaster and the playbook. Now for part 4, navigating the aftermath. This is where we get into the stuff everybody really wants to know about: the money, the paperwork, the headaches.
So let's just talk numbers. What does something like this actually cost? Well, the average insurance claim for water damage in the US lands somewhere in this ballpark. Of course, a tiny leak could be less, but if your whole basement floods, it could easily be way, way more. And that's exactly why insurance is so important.
And that, of course, leads to the big question everyone has. Is my insurance actually going to cover this? And the honest answer is, well, it depends.
And here's maybe the single most important distinction to understand. Your typical homeowner's policy is designed for things that are sudden and accidental. So that pipe that just explodes out of nowhere, you're probably covered. But that leaky faucet that's been dripping for months that you kind of ignored, that's a maintenance problem, and your insurance company will almost certainly deny that claim. And the other huge one, widespread flooding from a storm, is not covered. You need a completely separate flood insurance policy for that.
And this quote right here, it really says it all. Aside from what the policy covers, the two biggest reasons claims get denied are pretty simple. 1, people wait too long, and that secondary mold damage isn't covered. And 2, they just don't take enough pictures and document the process correctly.
So let's boil this all down. What do you absolutely need to remember? First, speed is your best friend. Second, take pictures of everything right from the very beginning. Third, do yourself a huge favor and read your insurance policy before you ever have a problem. And finally, remember that fixing this right isn't just cleaning up a mess. It's a real scientific process.
Let's end on one last really practical question. If my wood subfloor gets soaked, is it totally ruined? The answer is the perfect summary of everything we've talked about. Not always. If you get the pros in and they start drying it within that critical 48-hour window, it can often be saved. But if you wait longer than that, yeah, you're almost definitely looking at tearing it all out and replacing it.
At the end of the day, that's what this is. It's a race against time. It's your quick decisions versus the destructive power of water. And the only question left is, are you ready to win that race?